A full bench will tomorrow hear President Cyril Ramaphosa's interdict bid seeking to halt an attempt by former President Jacob Zuma to have him privately prosecuted. But the President insists summons and the nolle prosequi certificate that Zuma obtained are unlawful and invalid. For more on this, we can speak to the Council for the Advancement of the South African Constitution's Executive Secretary, Lawson Naidoo. Lawson, good to have you back on Newzroom Afrika in the new year. We've got a clearer sense of the arguments so far from both camps. Are they convincing?
Well, good evening, Tembekile, and thank you very much for this. I think it's useful to start with what is the alleged criminal act that President Ramaphosa is alleged to have committed, because that seems to have been lost in much of the discourse about this matter. Mm-hmm. And Jacob Zuma seeks to prosecute President Ramaphosa on the basis that Zuma had complained to the president about the conduct of Billy Downer, who's the prosecutor, as we know, in the arms deal fraud and corruption case. And, we know that Jacob Zuma is seeking to have Billy Downer removed from that prosecutorial team. So on the basis that the president refused the request to conduct an investigation, which is not provided for in the NPA Act, and we have to also except that the NPA is an independent body and the president could not simply act on the basis of a request from Jacob Zuma. So the mere fact that the president failed to institute the investigation that Jacob Zuma wanted cannot lead to the committal of a criminal act which Jacob Zuma is now seeking to prosecute. So on that basis, as well as the legal arguments that have been put forward in the papers by the parties, it would appear that the president has a very strong case against the purported private prosecution of him on that basis. It's also that the nolle prosequi certificate that issued by the NPA was not in relation to any conduct of President Ramaphosa. And a nolle prosequi certificate can only be issued by the NPA once it has considered the allegations against an individual and then taken a decision not to prosecute. It's not clear in this case that the NPA ever considered prosecuting President Ramaphosa for failing to institute that investigation. And therefore it cannot be said that that certificate covers this private prosecution.
Might the NPA itself be called into the matter at this stage to clarify the process followed upon hearing the case and deciding whether that in fact it wasn't worth pursuing as the NPA, and then granting a private prosecution certificate, which it has said in that statement in December was not all-encompassing, i.e. did not extend to Zuma pursuing possible private prosecution of President Ramaphosa?
Yeah, well, a nolle prosequi certificate cannot be used as a basis to institute private prosecutions against people who are not mentioned specifically in that certificate. So it may well be, Tembekile, that the NPA are called upon to assess the court, but that won't happen in the hearing that is scheduled for tomorrow. That is an urgent application to provide an interdict against further processes in this matter until a full hearing of the validity of that nolle prosequi certificate is heard later on. It is at that later stage that the NPA may be called in to provide some information to the court about the grounds on which the certificate was issued and what that certificate actually covers and was intended to cover.
Does the fact that this case will now be heard by a full bench tomorrow change the picture significantly at all when it comes to the interrogation of the merits of the arguments on either side?
Well, as I say, this is an urgent application for a temporary interdict pending the finalization of the substantive case that will be argued later. Whilst attention has been drawn to the fact that a full bench of the High Court will be assembled to hear this case, I think given the fact that this matter involves a current president as well as a former president, has probably convinced the court that a full bench is justified in this case, so that there can be no doubt about the outcome of tomorrow's hearing, and that the broader issues that I've raised will be properly ventilated when Part B of the application is heard in due course.
And if former President Zuma does prevail in the hearing tomorrow, what would be the implications for a sitting president to face a prosecution, even if it's one that he feels is frivolous and an abuse of legal processes?
Well, it means that, there are interim processes that may well continue, but that, there is still the substantive Part B of this application to be heard, where the full legal arguments about the validity of the certificate, the circumstances in which they were issued, whether this prosecution is being pursued with an ulterior motive, which is one of the arguments that President Ramaphosa has put forward, that it is an abuse of legal process. And, this is evident in the fact that the president in his papers is seeking a cost order against Mr. Zuma, as well as possibly against members of his legal team for the poor legal advice that President Ramaphosa alleges he has been provided with.
Lawson Naidoo from the Council for the Advancement of the South African Constitution, thank you for your time.